Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. Each week on Savvy, Christina Nichman hosts new individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their expertise, dreams, and lessons learned in their field of business. Today's guest is Norma T. Hollis. Known as America's leading authentic voice doctor, Norma knows how to help people reach their greatness. She's spent 30 years studying human energy systems from personal, professional, and spiritual perspectives. The result is a transformational program helping people answer the question, who am I? Why am I here? And how am I living my life? Foundational questions for understanding self and stepping into greatness. She uses this knowledge to help people navigate the human experience with passion, joy, and authenticity. Find out more about Norma by visiting her website, normahollis.com.
Hi, Norma. Thanks for coming to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Well, Christina, I am fantastic. Thank you for having me on your radio show today.
Well, I am super excited to have you on. You're a good friend of our good friend Tamara Green,
Yes.
and she was raving about you. And you have an absolutely fascinating story about how you came to where you are today with your business, helping people find their unique voice and live it in the world. How did this all come about for you?
Oh, wow. That is quite a story. I'll give you the summarized version, which really speaks to being a very creative and non-traditional person born into a family that was extremely traditional. And in a very traditional family, they actually, as a matter of fact, I was in college before I understood that I had choices that extended beyond doctor, lawyer, or teacher. Because
Mm,
I was raised to believe that those were the only paths really that were available to me to even consider. And I really didn't fit into any one of those categories. I got my degree in teaching. I believed them and got my degree in teaching. I think I taught for 3 hours a day for 1 month. And I knew that is not what I was intended to do on the planet. So my life has been really a journey, a long journey of peeling away the layers of I guess fooling myself or trying to be somebody that I wasn't,
mm,
trying to fit into the pattern and the mold, the box that my parents were really clear who I was supposed to be. And I imagine a lot of parents do that. In my case, I realized as African Americans, my parents did not even have a chance to vote until they were 40 years old because African Americans could not vote.
mm-hmm,
And so it gives you a certain view of the world in terms of what's possible. And because they were overachievers, they were a doctor, a dentist, and a teacher themselves, they felt that was the only way for success, for their children.
mm-hmm,
So I recognize that, my degree, first of all, is in early childhood. I think that was a way to understand myself. And what I learned in that education is that children all come with certain gifts and talents that are uniquely their own. And when you don't allow them to develop and allow those gifts and talents to thrive and force them to be someone or try to make them to be someone that they're not, you just create a confused person. And so I guess in my quest to get to my own authenticity, to get past the person my parents defined me as and connect with the person that I was truly born to be, it's been quite a journey, a very independent journey. And I'm taking the things that I've learned and the great opening, the great doors, and the great joy that I have encountered by taking this journey and sharing it with others. This is,
mm.
yeah.
I love that. And I'm sure many out there can relate. I myself can relate to what you're saying.
Mm.
The day I graduated from high school, my mom said, "So now when are you getting a job?" Yeah. Unlike your parents, my parents grew up in the workforce, and the moment they got out of high school, they went straight to work, and sometimes within high school. So they didn't believe in college at all. They didn't believe in higher education. For them, it was absolute waste of money. You go straight to get money. Anyone that goes to college is just trying to, I don't know, live on the edge and not work and be lazy or something. So for them, it's like I got a full scholarship for my first year in college, and they were like, "No, no, 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 you're gonna go get a real job and not waste time. So get off your butt and go get a job."
it's interesting how, although the stories are different,
Hmm.
the thinking is the same. So where's the safety net? And everything is based off so much on the safety net that we often feel that we have to have. I've learned I have my safety net more in terms of myself. And then by being authentic and knowing who I am and having clarity in that way, it's a better safety net, I think, than any job could bring for me.
Oh yeah, totally. And I've come to realize that myself. And it's interesting, Norma, because when I left my mom's house and I'd started out and I got my first corporate job with a desk, I
Yeah.
had thought I had arrived. I thought I'm going to be safe forever. It's going to be my dream life. I'm going to make good money. And I was very unfulfilled, like a good many people out there, just living what they think they should be living, the life that they were passed down, that is the safest life, that
Right.
is for you. And it's awesome that you were able to find your authentic, true voice. And
Yeah.
what would you say today, Norma, has been your greatest passion and why that propels you forward in your life and in your business?
Well, my greatest passion, I think keeps coming back to my original passion, which is children's spirituality.
Mm,
I have my degrees in early childhood. That's where I started in my career. And I just have this great, great, great love of the 2-year-olds and the 3, 4-year-olds and who they are.
mm,
And what I have since learned about that after coming out of early childhood and going into the business world as a speaker bureau owner, as a speaker, as a coach to people who weren't authentic and those who were, and helping them become speakers, what I've learned so much is how that early childhood time really, really, really shapes who we are in so many ways that oftentimes the challenges we have when we get older are traceable back to something that we can't even remember that occurred before the age of 5.
mm,
And then when children are very young at age 2, before they start learning how to read, for the ages 2, 3, and 4 generally, their language patterns speak so much to where they came from,
mm,
wherever it may have been. And so children may tell stories about when they were on the planet before and what that was like, or they may tell stories of what their assignment is, what they were told they're supposed to do, what life was like before they got here. It's just fascinating to listen to them. So, and I recognize also that at that age is when their gifts and talents are first being exposed, when their true authentic nature is at its rawest and is first really being exposed to their parents, and how important it is at that time frame to help children to develop those gifts and talents so that they can grow into the person that they were intended to be. So that's where my passion is. And so I understand it and work with it with parents of young children.
mm.
And I also understand authenticity and authentic voice and work with it with adults who have lost the opportunity to gain that as a child, or who are continuing to build on it, wherever they may be at that, but helping them to connect with that authentic voice, their gifts and talents that really make them who they are.
Mm. There's so much of that I'm pulling out of it that I love. And one being is that I don't think a lot of us really pay attention to that these little people who may be a lot younger than us all have their unique gifts set within them that God has planted within them at birth,
Right.
and that they are just as amazing as an adult. And you can learn. I mean, I've been around a 2-year-old or 4-year-old and I've learned so much from being in their presence that we forget that just because you're an adult doesn't mean you can't learn anything from this child, and that to really honor them for who they are as a person.
Yeah, and in my experience, children, what they really need from us
Hmm.
is to learn how the society works so that they then can decide how to put themselves into society. The one thing that we know as adults is that when we're children, nobody understands what's going to be happening 20, 30 years down the road.
Hmm.
So, what's the best safety net to whatever society and the world is moving toward? I mean, our grandparents, our parents, we didn't even know that internet would be available and you could talk like we're doing right now in different parts of the world and broadcast it all over you, the world. I
Hmm.
mean, who knew? So, how do we even know what can happen years from now when our children and grandchildren become our age and are seeking careers and are seeking how to move the world forward? So the best defense against that is not necessarily a book education as much as it is self-education. So you know who you are and how you can put yourself into whatever might be coming your way as you grow older. And self-education is being authentic with yourself, really knowing yourself. I think it's the greatest gift you can give yourself.
Mm. I absolutely agree. Why would you say, Norma, that a good portion of parents and teachers out there really inhibit children from living their true, authentic selves? Is it out of fear or?
Well, I think it's out of lack of knowledge, and it's also out of being, it's out of following the path, following the same pattern that you're putting children in. So let me go back to early childhood. If you go into an early childhood classroom and you get the energy and the children there, it's a very authentic energy in most cases, because in most preschools, children get the opportunity to move freely from one activity to another. So they're not always sitting still and writing, and they certainly are seldom into rows where they have to stay in rows and sit in their chairs all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get into kindergarten and first grade, and the rules change. Now you have to sit in those chairs all day long. You raise your hand. You have to go get into a row to go to the bathroom. You have to permission to go to the bathroom. You have to do everything in line and orderly. Now, I'm not saying that that's not necessary to keep control and structure in society, but what happens to so many people is when they start getting in these lines and start following these rules, they forget who lived inside before the rules became dominant. And the other piece is you move from your right brain to your left brain when you learn how to read, and that also takes you away from some of the things that might have occurred more naturally, creatively with you. So as years go by and you chip away at this, and you're indoctrinated more into the bureaucracies and the institutions and the order and the structure, you grasp it. And school requires you, because of the academic nature of it, to follow that structured pattern. And as you know, many schools no longer do the art and the music and the things that allow you to be more creative and more individual.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a gradual period of continuing to feed the human being this structure, this way of looking at the world, this need for safety and security, the reason to have a job, to be what I call oftentimes a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're already in the robot mentality before we realize what's happened to us. Oftentimes we retire, and only then is it that we say, well, now I can go back and be my creative self.
Mm-hmm. And the scary part about that, Norma, is you don't even know what that looks like anymore. You don't even know where to begin.
Exactly. And this is why I focus on what I do. I help people get a starting point, to know where to begin, to re-embrace and reclaim that person that they truly are, and not the person that society may have molded them into to meet society's needs, but not necessarily to meet your need as the individual.
And I find that to be a very scary proposition, what's happening right now with the elimination of arts and music and such, because I think a lot of school systems feel that, well, that's not going to help you get a job later on. How is, painting a picture, or or even gym, which is starting to be eliminated. Oh my gosh. We already have kids who are already overweight. The last thing we need to do is also eliminate physical activity. But it's scary at that thought, because I'm just seeing often more and more people that are coming into the job force. Just before I left corporate, I was hiring some high schoolers right out of high school, and I could not even give them a simple task, and give them the directions and have them follow it properly, because they were not even able to think for themselves in any shape or form. And then that is a little scary for our society going forward.
That's very, very scary. And that's kind of what I was saying in terms of the robot perspectives that schools teach us to be. And those are to the benefit of society. Because if too many of us, I guess, were individual, we would have too many minds of our own, and we might do things differently, and society might change. Oh my gosh, what a thought.
Imagine.
So the idea of authenticity has a lot to do with enabling people to see the possibilities, because if the people lead, the leaders will follow. When we as people connect and recognize that some of our individuality is being stripped from us, then maybe we'll speak out. And there's already research that shows when people have music and when they have creative art and they have these different parts of their lives, they're much happier, and they're much happier employees. And the way that it goes now, it implies that the only way to live one's life, or the only way to have any type of happiness, is to have a job and have money. And that's not always true. I know a lot of people who have money and have jobs, but they're lost. They don't have meaning. They don't have friends. They're just, they put so much fear in losing their money that they don't know how to enjoy life. I mean, it's all different types of stories with people. And sometimes people realize that just having relationships and love and the goodness has more value sometimes than having the big bank account. So
Yes.
it's all about what are the objectives. So, we raise in the society as if the only objective is to have a job, and that's not the only objective. There are other things that make life far happier and than just having employment. Although, money is critical, absolutely, but there are a number of ways that money can be attained, and the goal doesn't have to be to have all this money. It's enough money to live by and be comfortable with. And when you make your goal, as society will have you think that more money is better, all that does is give you sometimes anxiety to how to get more, and not necessarily how to manage and enjoy what you have.
Good point. And also the managing of it. I can totally attest that when I was making very good money in a high-powered corporate job, I just spent a lot. And what I found is for me, it became an addiction to spend my money on the weekends because I was so stressed, 13, 14 hours a day working during the week, that any bit of time during the weekend was just shopping.
Right, right.
Yeah. So
And that's how society wants it, because by your shopping, you're feeding the same game. You just want to put money in the system. And so I ask any parent of young children to ask yourself, is that the life you want for your children? I mean, are you raising your children to have 13, 14-hour days in order to make enough money to have enough money to get rid of the stress on the weekend? Okay, is that really what we're raising each other for? Or is there some other value that being on the planet offers other than the idea of that rat race game? And not only that, that game runs so fast. When I was younger, I used to wonder, why isn't everybody around me, all my parents' friends and their friends, seem to work these jobs, and then they retire, and then they die shortly thereafter? So is that what the game is? And so I didn't get that. So there has to be more to this planet than just working to pay who? To pay a corporation that's going to survive beyond you, that doesn't really, care that much. I mean, there's some that care exactly, and there are some things, some jobs that can be very valuable and very fulfilling. But I think everybody should be doing something that's fulfilling in their life, and it should pay them a wage that enables them to have joy. And I don't think the goal in life should be having more money and just having, I have a friend recently that was bragging to another friend about how they had $1 million in cash in the bank. And that's a wonderful thing to say. I mean, it's a stranger you're telling it to, okay, but so the question that I ask you is that when your mother-in-law was ill and your sister-in-law came in town and needed to have a car to use to care for the mother-in-law, why wouldn't you let her use it if you have so much money in the bank? So, I mean, where's the values there and what's really important to you? So.
That is an awesome point because I do know a very close friend who's become so attached to money that they're really happy to say, "Oh, look how much I saved on XYZ." It's almost like a game for them. "Oh, I went shopping this weekend. I got XYZ sales and da da da." And she's always happy with how much she's saved, which is, my hat's off to you because I was the opposite of you when I was in corporate. I was like saving nothing. But at the same token, it's gotten to a point where it's a little extreme, where she can't let any money go. And then when you get to that point, it almost owns you.
It owns you, yes.
Yeah.
And then you're in a society where's the balance? Because there are so many people who, by no fault of their own, maybe there's somebody who was very creative, and yet they were raised in a family that forced them to be structured. And because society now is that their way, and the person is just unhappy, or maybe they took pills or some type of chemicals because of a health issue and didn't realize that it was messing their body up and therefore couldn't work properly when they got older, whatever the reason is. But how can you use that money to help society in ways that people that are not as fortunate, as opposed to just giving it away to perpetuate the same craziness that has society crazy? So, and not only that, there's a personal gratification when you give. There's a personal satisfaction. Maybe you don't have a meaning or creative way to do something yourself, but you can get great meaning off of authentically sharing either your money, your time, your gifts with other people who aren't so fortunate as you.
Totally, totally awesome. And I would say, what would you say, Norma, to someone out there who feels like they've lost touch with who they really are, with their unique, authentic voice? How might they start to get reconnected to their authentic voice?
Well, the best way to get reconnected is to go inward. I researched authentic voice for over 30 years. And what I came up with is that we basically have three voices: our inner voice that no one hears but ourselves, the outer voice, which is how other people perceive us, and the expressive voice, which is who we've become. So the starting point is the inner voice. So anyone that wants to strengthen their authenticity, the first thing you want to do is to create a stronger way of listening listening to, trusting, and responding to your inner voice. So basically what I tell people is think about or examine the next time you say to yourself, I'm hungry. What shall I eat? Or what shall I wear today? And look at how the answer comes to you. Sometimes it may come as a thought or a feeling or a memory or a gut feeling, or the feeling may come in your arms. Just look at how it comes to you. I know for me, there's a suit that I purchased when I lost 30 pounds. And whenever I want to look a certain way, I think of that suit and I often will wear it because I know how it makes me feel. Mm-hmm. So that's a way that my voice speaks to me in different ways. So look at that and examine that and see how that comes to you from time to time. That's a way that your voice is speaking to you. And you want to begin to trust it.